Welcome to Downshift. My name is Matt, and this is the very new 2024 Mercedes-Benz GLC Coupe. This thing is so new that as of the recording of this video, you can't even go to the Mercedes website and configure one of these things yet. But thanks to our friends at Mercedes-Benz in Milwaukee, we're going to show you everything you need to know about this car. Let's get into it. First things first, what is a GLC Coupe? Well, the GLC got a new generation last year for 2023, but this year for 2024, the GLC gets a new coupe, which means you have the more sloped roofline, as you can see here. And there's some things that you get standard now that you don't in the normal GLC. So what is that? What does the coupe get you? Well, most specifically, the coupe gets you 4MATIC all-wheel drive as standard, and it also gets you a little bit more style as standard. So this is a new generation of GLC, and what does that mean for the look? Well, it's not a huge departure, but there are some things that are different. For one, your grille is a little bit more rounded off, and it's got some different design. You also have these little Mercedes-Benz stars adorning the interior. Now, a lot of grilles you see are like mesh or like a hexagonal pattern, but it's kind of interesting to see the stars. I believe this is part of the AMG line package, which also gets you a little bit more aggressive lower diffuser. You get some updated headlights and running lights as well for your 2024. And you can option Mercedes digital light, which will read road signs and then project them onto the road in front of you at night while you're driving to make things easier to see. Around the side here, you do have new wheel options between 19 or 20 inches. This thing is 1.2 inches about longer, so it is a bit bigger. Now the non-coupe is 2 inches longer, so this thing's just a little bit bigger, but a little bit smaller than the non-coupe. And then as far as the rear end design, that's been heavily updated, and to me it looks almost like the Mercedes-Benz CLA from the rear. It looks more like a big car than a slopey SUV or slopey roofed SUV, and this is probably the first coupified SUV, or one of, that I actually like the look of. But let's talk about what powers this thing. This gets a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, but now it has a 48-volt mild hybrid system attached to it. This is now making 255 horsepower and 295 pound-feet, and these are big gains, and a lot of that comes down to the fact that you have the 48-volt system here. This also gets the 9-speed auto that we're familiar with. You get 4MATIC as standard, so all-wheel drive traction, and that means you're getting 0 to 60 in about 6.2 seconds, which is relatively quick. But that mild hybrid system also has an effect on your fuel economy. This now is rated at 26 mpg combined, which is up 2 mpg combined from last year, and importantly, 2 more than the BMW X4. Now let's talk about the trunk real quick. I like this. You push the star, and it whirs itself open. That star also hides the rear view camera. But once you're in here, you actually have a decent sized trunk. This is 19.2 cubic feet with these rear seats up. If you fold those down, you're gonna get 52.6 cubic feet. Both of those numbers are bigger than what you're gonna get in the BMW X4. There are also power folding rear seats, which is pretty impressive for the segment. And you've also got grocery bag hangers, and my favorite little netted cubby on the side. But let's say you want some muscle from your GLC. What can this thing tow? Well, it's actually rated at 3,500 pounds of max towing capacity, which is pretty impressive. It's enough to tow something like my parents' boat and something like your compact 4-cylinder turbo SUV. But now we're gonna talk rear seats. And you get some pretty nice stuff. All the same materials that you get from the front, you get in the back here. You can see you have some pretty decent room. I'll step in. I'm about 6'1", and I've got some knee room. The only thing is, with the coupified roofline, you are going to lose headroom. Now I can sit here, if I take my hat off, pretty comfortably. And it is nice to have a bigger sunroof to let a little bit more light in, and I really appreciate this lighter interior making it feel a little bit bigger. But look, you've got awesome ambient lighting. You can option heated rear seats. You get some climate vents. You can option a climate zone. The only weird thing is you can't get chargers in the back. There's no chargers in the back, which is just strange for something in 2024. But while I'm back here, I want to talk about the interior design. Now look at this. It is so minimal. It's very clean. You've got a super easy dash design. The center screen almost waterfalls into your center console down there. You've got the floating armrests on your doors, which are really cool. And then you've got these cool speakers, even up in the headliner up here. I mean, look at that. If that's not Gatsby, I don't know what is. But now I want to talk to you about one of my favorite things in new Mercedes products. Go into comfort, ambient light. Now, of course, you have your monochromes, you have a bunch of different colors, 64 different colors. I'm liking the pink because it kind of matches my hoodie today, but you also have multicolor, and my favorite ones are either Malibu Sunset or Miami Rose. And you can kind of see what they're doing. It'll actually kind of pulse through. You're gonna get it all in here, on your door, in your vents, and you can even get it in your cup holder. But let's talk screens. I don't have a head-up display here, which I think is a bit weird. Maybe you can option one, but I don't have it here. But you do have your fully digital instrument cluster with a bunch of different views, understated, sport, classic. I mean, you can have the full map like Audi did in their virtual cockpit. You have an off-road one on your GLC Coupe, which is just kind of funny. And then, of course, you have your big center infotainment screen. And this is running the latest MBUX software that we always talk about. Wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, all of the cool stuff. You've also got a fingerprint reader, and you can program 7 different driver profiles into here, which is pretty incredible. I mean, you have 7 people that are going to be driving your GLC, and they can all use their fingerprint to sign in, which is pretty awesome. But I'm going to flip it into reverse because you have amazing 360 cameras. And look at this, I have my foot on the brake, and I have my foot off, and it actively shows up. I go into drive, and now my front camera comes on. I always say this is an underrated feature. I love the fact that you get this. And your steering wheel, this is pretty new. It looks pretty awesome. And over here on the left, you have your Distronic controls, or your adaptive cruise, your lane keep, all of your autopilot stuff. And this stuff works really, really well. And I want to talk about the seats real quick. I love this white leather. They don't call it white, but it is gorgeous, especially on an interior with a car that's all black, to have a little bit of contrast. It's heated as standard. It can add cooling. You can get a heated steering wheel, and you can even go into here, comfort, go to your seat adjustments, and you get seat kinetics. So it'll kind of work against you, keep your blood flowing, not in a true massage fashion, but just something to keep your blood flowing. And if you don't want to use the touch or pressure sensitive seat adjustments, you can program in your height, and the system will automatically decide where it thinks the seat is best oriented for you at whatever height you are. Now, there's a couple pages in your infotainment system that I think are worth mentioning. One is your pretty normal one. This in an AMG would be a little bit more robust, but it shows you your consumption, your fuel economy, your telemetry with your acceleration and brake, your pitch and roll, and your engine modes and active power output. This is always one of my favorite screens. It's very, very cool. But this is also an SUV, and for 2023, Mercedes added an off-road mode, and you can see it's updated with the coupe. And your other GLC last year we did, which was the full roof, we had a full roof on it. Now we have the coupe. But it's really cool. You can see your steering angle, you can see your pitch and your roll, you've got a compass here, you've got engine data, again, live readouts, tire pressure, temperatures, coordinates. I mean, this is pretty serious off-road stuff. I don't know who's going to be taking their GLC Coupe off-road, but hey, there you go. And the last thing that we'll talk about is price. Now, this is so new that you can't even go onto the website and configure one of these things like I mentioned, but this thing starts at $57,000. Again, you get 4MATIC standard. As tested here, we're at about $62,500. Now, interestingly, and we'll talk about this in the downshift video on our best and the rest video, but the X4 from BMW starts at $2,000 less at $55,000. But with that, we've got the key. Let's go for a drive. GLC Coupe. Foot down. Okay. Okay, so 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, 255 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque. That's fine. It's quick enough, but that's not really the point of this car. So I'm gonna go back into comfort, but I want to show you this real quick. In sport, it says, don't go into sport mode if you have anything on the roof, which is interesting. But anyway, the point of this car isn't really to be that quick. It is fairly quick. It's not quite as quick as the BMW, but it is more a comfort cruiser, and it does that really, really well. And a lot of that is due to the 48-volt mild hybrid system, because that is doing a lot of work to give you some of that more instant torque coming off the line, to kind of smooth out gear shifts, and to just make the car feel a little bit more smooth and refined altogether. The engine isn't having to work so hard, it's not very raspy, the cabin is nice and isolated. It does feel really well put together, and visually, when I'm sitting here looking at this, it does feel pretty special. You know, the BMW is nice. It's gonna feel a little bit more dynamic and sporty, but if you are looking for, you know, a luxury SUV, this has a lot of that wow factor. And again, the cabin is nice and quiet and isolated. When you're not on it and you're just driving like a normal person to work in the morning, back from work, like, it is just comfortable and it's easy to drive here. You know, the visibility is good. All of the tech stuff is really nice. Your Distronic system works really, really well. So it's hard to find anything to really argue about with this car. And I think that's probably a good time to head into the final thoughts. So those are the 16 things you need to know about the new GLC Coupe. And as you could tell, I'm pretty impressed with this thing, especially as it stacks up against the BMW X4. But if you're looking for more information or more context on how this compares to the BMW X4, check out our Best and the Rest video on Downshift. But thanks to our friends at Mercedes-Benz in Milwaukee for letting us have a go in their brand new GLC Coupe. We'll see you in the next one.